Here we go. Welcome into the Rant, everybody. First of all, thank you to Jacob Toby for filling in for me last week. I have a little baby girl who's now exactly 1 week old. And Big Al Jerkins joined Bill Haston. That was a party. Wish I could have been here for that. Bill, of course, covering the Thunder tonight. Right. Before I get to my guest here for just a second, can I read off just a couple things from the Thunder box score? This, by the way, I want to give you a grand introduction.
Okay,
but just for now, you can feel free to speak if you want. I believe the Thunder went 7 of 39 from three-point range. Is that good, Jerry Ostrowski?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so. 7 of 39. Russell Westbrook came back. They home opener, taking on Sacramento, a game you got to win in a Western Conference. It's going to be brutal all year long, and the Thunder loses 131-120. They played zero defense and shoot 7 of 39 from three. Hey, we're going to talk football mostly, but anyway, that's what Bill Haston was watching tonight. I'm sure he kind of wishes he was here with us. Cade McFarland alongside Tulsa football legend. 10 years in the NFL? Or 10 years?
10 years, you count the practice squad days.
10 years in the NFL. Jerry Ostrowski, who's having his number retired this week as Tulsa takes on Tulane. That is Saturday night, 6 o'clock. First of all, congratulations on that. How cool is that? I know it was really neat how Derek Gragg surprised you on your radio show, The Coach and Big O. Congrats, man.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
It's very humbling. To this day, it's still amazing to me that it happened, considering everybody that's played there.
You played on one of the very best teams that ever played there, the 1991 Freedom Bowl team. I know you and Coach Jones have gone back and forth between, 91 and 64. I don't know how many of us remember the Sugar Bowl days or whatever in the 30s and 40s. But, a Tulsa football legend and now doing a fantastic job on the Sports Animal Monday through Friday. You can hear him from 11 to 2.
Yes, sir.
And kind enough to join us as Bill is at. You were there yesterday. Jacob Toby covered it for us. We're starting with Tulsa and Arkansas. There's the big Razorback. There's the hog. This game was so incredibly frustrating for me because it felt so winnable, or at least it felt like it should have come down to the wire. And then you look up at the end and it's 23-0. From watching your vantage point, what did you make of the performance yesterday? It's funny,
we got on the bus in the morning. We took a bus trip over. Larry Agee and the guys put a bus together and went over, and I was talking to Chadwick before before we rolled out. And I said, I've never felt so good or so confident as a 1-5 team going to Arkansas to play.
Sure.
Because they were just like us. And the defense is playing lights out. The defense is playing as good as I've seen defense played at the University of Tulsa. The inexperience at the quarterback position and just the lack or inexperience of wide receivers and big play wideouts it's hurting us right now.
Yeah. That is probably the most frustrating thing for me, is the fact that the defense has made such an incredible jump this season. I don't know if there's a defense that's more improved, and they just can't find a way to show anything for it in the win-loss column. I know that's got to be eaten at Coach Montgomery. You know, the quarterback situation, going back to Chad President starting the year last year, you had to replace him with Skipper. Skipper starts this year, you replace him with Boomer. The passing game, they're able to run the ball and move the ball running the ball. Do you see a way forward? Is there reason for hope going forward? Because there are winnable games in the back half of the schedule. Is there reason for hope with regard to the passing game?
There's always reason for hope because they do things the right way. Philip Montgomery and his staff, that's the one thing I always look at. When you get into losing streaks and you have issues and things like that, how are they doing things? Are they the right way? Are they all of a sudden panicking and trying to cut corners and do some different things? But that's not the case over there. They do things the right way every day. And as long as you're doing that, you're able to try to, continue to execute your plan. I think the biggest thing is just inexperience. It's really not fair to Seth Boomer to not, if you started him at the beginning of the season, and he had the chance to ease into things with Central Arkansas, Arkansas State, Temple, who, is a tough opponent, but you're not playing in front of a bunch of people at Temple. And then you have Texas. Maybe this is a little bit different, this transition. Guys, that was his third game. Should have won his second start.
Against a ranked team in USF.
Against the 23rd ranked team in the country. So, I'm not a guy that's going to go ahead and take a young kid like that to task.
Sure.
What I'm going to look at is where could they improve.
And it's not just the quarterback.
No,
receivers need to be better. The line needs to block for him better.
You can't have the pre-snap penalties that you have. You can't have the, and really, to be honest with you, when you're fighting and scratching and calling, the best way to come back from some things is to make a big special teams play. Yeah. And they've had too many special teams snafus as well. The kicker's got to get better. So I'm not. You don't put this all on a young quarterback. I mean, the kids started 3 games, and they will continue to work. They'll continue to do the things the right way, and I think eventually they will have the success that we've all come to expect.
They have in their last 3 games completed only about 33% of their passes. This is not an offense necessarily where you're going to complete 70% of or something, because they do throw deep.
Still completed more passes than the Thunder made 3-pointers.
Yeah, well, they're pretty close. Those are competing numbers at the moment. But I do want to say, I mean, as tough as it is right now at 11th and Harvard, 1-6, you got to win every game the rest of the way if you're going to make a bowl. Man, hats off to the defense, because those guys, it's not being rewarded in the win-loss column, but they've made a huge step forward, and they've been fun to watch defensively.
Remember this. Everybody wanted Coach Young gone last year as well, because the defense wasn't as good. And Coach Montgomery knew what they needed to do over there. They made a few changes with the personnel they had, and now look at what they're doing. Xavier Collins comes through. He's progressing. Gibson's a big-time player.
Sure.
You've got Bunch and McKinley back healthy again. Edmondson stepped up. So, you know, just be patient.
Yeah, look, I think there's some wisdom in that. This is Bill Young's 50th year of coaching, and after all those years, he was able to go back to the drawing board and find some answers. He is a good coach, and you know that, so stick by him, which Philip Montgomery did, and I think that probably applies now to Philip Montgomery. Like, it hasn't all gone right, and he's been a part of that. I mean, like, every coach has things that they regret or wish they could take back, but I do think he's a guy who's a really good football coach. And I think he'll figure some things out. The question is, can you continue to get the kids to play hard? They have so far.
They are
but
playing
at 1-6,
man,
it gets difficult to keep going
Saturday,
back out there to practice.
Hard. They played hard at Arkansas. They did.
All right, let's talk about the Sooners. It was a little happier day there in Fort Worth. OU beating TCU 52-27. Second quarter was a bit of a struggle defensively. Gave up 2 touchdowns, 17 unanswered points. But all things considered, I mean, this was, you know, some of the best defense we've seen these guys play this year, with Ruffin McNeil taking over for Mike Stoops. The narrative is that he simplified some things, doesn't want the kids thinking quite as much as maybe Mike did, and I guess they were maybe playing a little bit harder for him. Your take? Look, TCU hasn't played good offense in weeks, almost all year long. In Big 12 play, I think they had 4 or 5 touchdowns scored. They, you know, scored a couple against the Sooners. This was not a great offense, but you did what you had to do, and it was a step forward.
Well, first of all, they've got an offense with Kyler Murray leading the way that no matter what they do, they always have a chance. Even as badly as they played against Texas, they almost won that game.
Serious advantage every time.
Defensively, I'm going to hold judgment. I'm going to wait until I see how they play against Texas Techs of the world, West Virginia's, those types of teams, because I like you say, TCU, it was a good test. They did some things well, but they're still not the dominant defense that people expect. Now, the one thing I did see that I liked, it seemed like the defensive front line got after it. They got up the field a little bit. Perkins played. Redmond came in. He's back and healthy again. The way to stop spread teams, folks, is not to add a bunch, even more DBs to the field that cannot tackle.
Yeah, totally agree.
The way to stop the spread is to harass a quarterback. You harass the quarterback. I go to this all the time, and I'll never forget this. When we had Barry Switzer on with us, Switzer said something that I thought was amazing. He said, your quarterback pressure, your sacks come from guys with their hands on the ground.
That's right. They better.
And they have got to play better up front on D-line. I don't care what they do in the back end. The only thing they need to work on the backside is to tackle. Okay, but I'll hold judgment. I'm just a little bit sick of hearing about how happy everybody is that Ruffin McNeil's there, and he's real nice, and the other guys were real mean, and I'm so happy that they're nice and encouraging. And obviously Diaco and a bunch of the defensive coaches kind of adopted the I call them FEAs, fake excitement acts. When guys run off the field, they're jumping and chest bumping.
And Diaco's always been that guy, but there was some of that.
It was just a big happy party, you know? Really, here's the deal. You're getting a free education and a lot of stuff. Go perform. Do you want to get to the NFL? Go perform on Saturday, then you'll get to the NFL.
I think all of us agree that this offense is so good that the defense only needs to be a little bit better than it was, to start the season, or at least to start Big 12 play, to run the table in the Big 12 and give yourself a real great chance at making the college football playoff. That said, what you were getting at, I totally agree with. I have a hard time just throwing a whole bunch of compliments on these guys. One, after only one game, and two, after I see them play hard enough that maybe it would have saved Mike Stoops his job if they had played this way for him. I mean, that bothers me. Where was this effort before?
And think about this whole, patting on the back thing and everything. At some point, it's going to get tough again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Probably in Lubbock.
And when it happens, and there's some chaos, what happens?
Sure.
Do you revert back to what you did at one point, or do you really, truly go out and bring everybody together and play as one for these guys that you supposedly really, really like and care for in the new D coordinator?
One final thing on OU. Trey Brown, Union grad, got the start at cornerback. Has
played well.
He has. And not just the TCU game, though he was really good then, but had been coming for a couple weeks now. It's clear, I think he's one of their top two corners. Lost his mother this week, and some of the players on his team were pallbearers at that funeral. Man, hats off for what he was able to do under those circumstances, and really just kind of the player he's becoming for the Sooners. Look, he brings some toughness that they need in that defensive backfield. They've been pushed around a little bit too much. I like the fire he brings. So, it's good to see him inserted in the starting lineup. I think Ruffin's got a pretty good feel about what needs to happen. And I said this yesterday on the Sportscast. Nobody is saying that Mike Stoops doesn't know defense.
No.
And I think Mike Stoops himself admitted that maybe he wasn't the right guy at this time for this defense. It's possible Ruffin McNeil is. Like we said, they don't have to be a whole lot better to be the best team in the Big 12 when you're paired with that offense. Looking ahead to Oklahoma State and Texas. We got a big old ball game coming this week, this Saturday in Stillwater. I guess you could call this a crossroads. It's certainly a moment now for Oklahoma State. You win this game. You upset the number 6 team in the country, even though I don't think any of us think Texas is actually the 6th best team in the country. That said, the resume's really good. You win this game, and everybody begins talking about Oklahoma State a little bit differently. You lose this game, and it feels like this thing is about to careen off into a ditch. This is a big, big moment for Mike Gundy, and I'm going to go ahead and, I think, call my shot right here. I like the Pokes in this moment. Almost against logic. I mean, what they put on the field against Kansas State a couple weeks ago, how in the world, or a week ago, how can you pick them to win? But I just feel this is one of those spots back against the wall. I think we'll see Spencer Sanders. I really do. I know that Gundy has said everything to the contrary there. I think OSU is going to give Texas all they can handle. I almost expect them to pull the upset.
I tend to agree with this. My whole thing is when you look at everything that's going on this year and the silliness of what you've seen out of the head coach. Okay, we've all talked about the mullet, then the bird dogs in the meetings, and we're talking about peacocks and shooting turtles, smoothies, what's in the smoothie, what's not in the smoothie.
It's fun when you're 4-0, man.
All of that, no, but all that being said, I'm a little bit different. I truly believe, now Pat does not believe this, Pat thinks I'm crazy, Coach Jones, but I truly believe that they felt that this was a 7-8 win team. And if they got lucky, maybe they could win 9. If they got crazy lucky and the ball bounced a certain way, maybe 10.
Yeah.
I don't think they felt they were going to be as good as everybody thinks this year. I think a lot of these diversion tactics are a sign of that.
Sure.
I think you'll see Spencer Sanders at some point, but I think it's silly to think that he's the savior of the team with what's going on. McCleskey leaves. You can't keep some of your receivers on the field health-wise. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. Receiver-wise, they're not as good. Offensive line-wise, obviously, although it's funny how the offensive line gets better when surrounding talent gets better. It's weird how that happens. But
that's right.
I know
that's a common theme for you to go back and get after either Bill Haston or some of us
who
act like we know
it's low-hanging fruit.
It is, and look, offensive line play for football fans in general is probably the thing that we misunderstand the most, right? I do know this, going back to Missouri State, where I thought they should have been blowing open holes and running like crazy. You didn't see that, and it just alarmed me. That's not to say I know exactly what was going on with the offensive line, but I just thought, that doesn't. And then it just they would add a couple things as each week went on.
Think about this, and the situation is very similar to what's happening at TU. You have an offense that's not scaring anybody.
Yeah.
Their outside receivers aren't scaring anybody. So why am I going to pull defenders away from the center, away from the football to go cover guys when I've got you got receivers that don't scare me?
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what they're seeing.
Wallace has had a nice year, but you're right. Sometimes it's been Cornelius being a little bit inaccurate. So sometimes it's been on the receivers. For whatever reason, they haven't been able to get that passing game humming.
I think Justice Hill's a tremendous talent. But he's a really good talent when there's 5 guys in there, and one of the 5 is bailing when he's getting the hand.
It was a lot easier with Mason Rudolph and James Washington and everything you had to honor there.
But I think
do you think Spencer Sanders should see time?
I think he will. I don't think he has to. I don't think it's a necessity because, like I said, I don't think that you're going to change one guy on that team, and all of a sudden
I think there can be a spark there. I don't doubt that Texas has some inkling of this, and they're trying to prepare for it in some way, shape, or form. They had a bye week as well, but I just like it's the unknown. This guy was maybe the best quarterback in the state of Texas 1 year ago. Cornelius has run the ball well, but this is a different kind of elusive quarterback. To me, this is the time. I don't blame Mike Gundy for starting the year with Cornelius, but I think it's past time to go to this kid.
So what you're saying is put him in and let him run for his life.
Well, it's a good point because
put him in, let him read
Cornelius
his first read
had to
and
run for his life in the Iowa State game, and Texas may have an even better defense than Iowa State. What you're saying is exactly right. And look, and Mike Gundy knows way more football than me, so the fact that Spencer Sanders hasn't seen the field, I do defer to the guy who's the winningest coach in program history. That said, I think it's got to be time. This guy was so highly touted. Yes. He's got so much talent that was obvious to me on his high school film. If you're going to go beat Texas in a game where your back is against the wall, to me, you empty the bullets in your holster.
Now, don't kid yourself. You're a Notre Dame fan, so you obviously know more football than anybody else. But so don't kid yourself.
Absolutely.
But no, seriously, think about this. If you were to go to these other games, Iowa State included, you put Spencer Sanders in, do they win that game?
Boy, that's a good question. He might have been able to pull one of these out of the fire, but no, I can't say that for sure.
Right.
Certainly not.
I think playing Spencer Sanders is not a sign of we've got to do this to win. I think it's a sign of I'm throwing in the towel and I'm getting ready for next year. And if it happens, it'll happen when they've got 4 games or less.
I think he's a little better than that. All right, they've started the third quarter, but I do want to get to one final thing. Let's go ahead and roll that OU video one more time because I forgot about this with the Sooners. With regard to the college football playoff,
yes,
I thought Ohio State, not only losing, but getting blown out. I thought that was huge for the Sooners last night. Obviously, you got to root against Notre Dame, but as a huge Notre Dame fan, I think there's a very good chance they get tripped up somewhere along the way. You got to root against Michigan. And you probably got to root for Georgia and LSU and all those guys to take a second loss. But don't you think the Sooners' college football playoff chances are a whole lot better today than they were last night before Ohio State and Purdue kicked off? I thought that was a huge ball game maybe for the Sooners as we spin it forward.
Right. They're better. Their chances are better today, but not because they changed the defensive coordinator, because Ohio State lost.
Yes,
We're looking at teams that are losing, and if they continue to build and get better defensively, and what's better? I mean, just a little bit better. I mean, they don't have to become the 85 Bears by no means.
Honestly, just to be an okay tackling team would probably be enough for this team to run the table. I mean, like you say, Lubbock's going to be a tough spot. Morgantown's going to be a tough spot. And then the Big 12 championship game, which, you know, whether that'll be Texas, West Virginia, or somebody else.
I really want to see Texas.
They just have to be a little better. Oh, my gosh. Patrick Masick and I were joking on the Sports Animal a couple of weeks ago. The Big 12 needs to write in there if there's a 3-way tie and OU and Texas are involved, it's just automatically OU Texas, just for the good of the league.
Yes, we need OU Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares what the rankings are, the tie breaks, or anything else? Give us OU Texas one more time in Arlington. Jerry O.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Honestly, TU fans, if you listen to his radio show, I know that Tulsa's 1-6 right now. Get out there. The weather's going to be good, I think.
Weather's going to be great.
6 o'clock on Saturday. This guy's getting his jersey retired, and those guys need to hear you in the stands. We would love to see TU move to 2-6 as they take on Tulane this week. Hey, that's it for The Rant. We'll be back with Bill Haston next week. Jerry O, thank you.
See you. Thank you.